Welcome, everybody, to the Contextual Christian Church Bible Study, where today we will be getting into First Chronicles chapter 4 and verses 9 to 23. Again, that's First Chronicles chapter 4 and verse 9 to 23. And I'll go ahead and pray us in. Everybody bow your heads. Father, thank you for this day that you've given us to be able to read your word and to have everybody on that we have on. And I just pray as we go to read these names that God, you help us to understand why we have them in the order, if we can, a little bit. I know there was a question that I posed to everybody before. I hope that one of them gets it right. But if not, it'll be a learning experience regardless. And I pray giving thanks for prayers that are answered. And I also ask for forgiveness for the sins committed before now in your son's holy and precious name, Jesus Christ Yeshua. Amen. So last time, what we went through, let me get to it, is we continued first off with the children of Judah. Oh, wait, no. It wasn't first. Wasn't it the children of David? Give me a second. There we are. Now I'm back to it. No, we started off with the sons of Bediah. We're still in, the children of Judah going down the generation after generation. And pretty much just going through another list of names of the generations as they continued on. We talked about Penuel, who was the father of Gedor. We talked about Ephratah, and then we talked about the who was the father of Bethlehem. And then we finished out in verse 8, where we had Koz, who was the father of Anu. And that's pretty much where we finished out going through the children of Judah. As today we'll be getting started in verse 9. And I'll go ahead and switch it over for everybody. Not YouTube, wrong button. And then go ahead, Charles, when you're ready.
All right, I'll be reading First Chronicles chapter 4, verses 9 to 13. I'm going to give it a couple seconds. Verse 9. And Jabez, or Yabetz, was more honorable than his brethren, and his mother called his name Yabetz, saying, because I bear him with sorrow. And Yabetz called on the God of Israel, saying, oh, that thou wouldest bless me indeed, and enlarge my coast, and that thine hand might be with me, and that thou wouldest keep me from evil, that it may not grieve me. And God granted him that which he requested. And Caleb, the brother of Shua, begot Meir, there we go, which was the father of Eshton. And Eshton begot Bethrapha and Paseah, or Paseah, and in Tehinna, there we go, Tehinna, the father of Ernahash. Oh, here we go. Irnahash. These are the men of Rekha. And the sons of Kenaz, Othniel, and Sariah. And the sons of Othniel, Hathath. Man. Okay, so starting off in my first section, we start off with Jabez. It talked about him being, what's another way I can say more honorable? I should know this. Yeah, you know what? What is another way I could use honorable for your best? I want to use righteous. For your best, it's verse 9. We'll go with
I wouldn't use righteous only because honorable it does mean righteous, but it's more like
there's a more respect level with your best compared to his. That's what it looks like it's saying with the brethren.
no. It definitely means righteous in this context. You were right about that. It's just the thing is the term righteous is more used as towards like behavior, but honorable is more like mentality.
So I
You see
would
what I'm
have to
saying?
add then.
Like,
So I would have to add not just in what he does, but the mentality as well. I have to add the whole picture.
yeah, like one of the ways you could phrase it, or as I could phrase it, would be as righteousness was just part of who he was as a person, who he
So
strived to
much.
be,
So
more than
righteousness was.
anybody around him.
I was about to say more than his brethren, as it brought up in verse 9.
Yeah,
So it was a part of him so much so that it was more than his other brethren. And
yeah, he
then,
cared
yeah, I'll
more
use that.
about doing the right thing than anybody else of his brothers. That's
Okay, so
another
I'll
way you
use
could
that
say
with
it.
your best. Another way to use it. I'll use that. And then his mother gave him that name, talking about she had him, she conceived him, um, in sorrow, so sadness, or extreme sadness actually. Because when someone's really sorrowful, it's an extreme form of sadness, crying, tears, all that other extra emotions that go with it, all the extra
Yep, Michael
negative and
Jordan, ugly
sad
tears.
emotions. There you go. And Jabez also talks to the Lord, calls to the Lord, and asks the Lord to bless him, his land, make sure to give him more land, enlarge the coast, so more land, and to keep him from evil. And God granted his his. There you go. I got
To
you.
keep him from evil?
And that thou wouldest keep me from evil, that it may not grieve me.
Good.
Sin. Sorry. Another way I can use with the evil to keep me
Well,
from sin.
no, evil
Oh, go ahead.
works. I mean, you could say it either way.
Yeah.
I just had to do one of those. I haven't done one of those in a long time where I make sure you're confirmed.
Okay. Oh,
Yep,
you're good. And dang, we just so now we're done with Yabez, and now we go straight to Chalud, which is a brother Shua had Mehir, and which was the father of Eshton. That Mehir had Eshton. Eshton had, then it goes down the list of Eshton's generations, the kids. And Eshton, Beth, Beth Rapha, Pasia, in verse 12, and the other name, the other two names. And these guys are the men of Rekha. And Rekha is, I'm looking in the context to make sure it's not a person to confirm it's a place. So yes, it looks like it's a place of Judah. Strong possibility we're talking about these men are from a place called Rekha, not from a man called Rekha. And my last verse 13, the
well,
sons of, oh, go
I
ahead.
wouldn't even say Strong's possibility. I would say confirmed because look at the way it's phrased. We get past the statement of who they're related to, right? The father of in Ir Nachash,
Mm-hmm.
and then it says these are the men of Rekha. So we have the father. We have no statement of it being a mother, right?
No.
This is why I was remember Chris. I don't know if you could hear Chris. Go ahead and respond if you could hear. All right. Well, this is what I was explaining to you guys before about looking into the context surrounding. Right here, it doesn't say that they were of the father of this person.
Right.
And it already said that they had their father. So we had the closed off selection of connecting it to a family relative. So this is a good example to keep in mind of the difference between when it's saying a relation like the father of versus this, where it's talking about they're from this city. They are the men of Rakah. Did we read anywhere of Rakah being a family at all?
No,
No.
that was another thing
And
I was thinking about before I went to the BDB because I assumed a place. Now I was like, we never. I don't remember us reading about Rakah.
exactly. So we haven't read about a person named Rakah. And even after that verse, does it bring up a person named Rakah?
No, it switches it. It goes straight to a whole nother person.
Okay.
And the Strongs helps out a lot too with that.
Exactly. So
If I'm
this is a
starting to
good
question it.
indicator that we're talking about a city, not a person,
Yeah.
because of the fact that it doesn't say the father of Rakah. It doesn't say the Rakah, the father, they were of their father Rakah. It says that in the same exact verse, Eshton begot Eth Rabbah and Paseah and Tahina, the father of Irnash. These are the men of Rakah. Now,
That was the
is
part
it
that made me assume these are the men of
exactly?
Rakah. And then we didn't. That was one, two. I don't remember us reading about it. And then three, the Strongs.
Exactly. So all the intents and purposes here, it doesn't show any relatives connected to Rakah. It just says these are the men of Rakah, but it showed the relatives in the sentence before. So that's a
Now,
little indicator.
was I wrong for saying strong possibility as a just in case we read it again and it changes it up? Like
No,
in a
no,
few
no,
like
no.
this.
Remember, like there's if something is not 100%, you never phrase it as 100%. Is there even a 10% chance, Charles, that this is actually talking about a person, Rakah, and we just haven't gotten that context yet?
I can't give it a 10%. Nah, I can't give it a 10. I can only give like a
What?
one. I can't give it a 10.
Okay, Charles, you're being too literal. You're missing my point. Is there a small chance that this is talking about a person? Is that even a possibility?
After what we was talking about now.
No, it's not possible. These are the men of Rakah couldn't mean that this is like a lineage of a person named Rakah. And we read later about the lineage of Rakah.
Small chance. Um, it could
Yeah,
be. Yeah. It's a very, very small chance. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. There's a very small chance. I say 10%. I'm not being literal 10%, Charles. I'm using that as a metaphor to say
Go
that
ahead.
there's a small possibility. It's it's not likely that we're talking about a person here. So in a situation like that where it's so unlikely, but there still is that possibility, you want to say that it most likely and is a very strong possibility is talking about a city named Rakah and not a person named Rakah. But if we don't read anything of there ever being a person named Rakah, especially with all the names that were given, that would be confirmation. But we
Mhm.
haven't finished reading through First Chronicles yet. We haven't even gone through the fifth chapter. So if it turns out in the before we get to another section, like let's say we stop talking about the children of Judah and we go into another group. Now at that point, you can say it's confirmed because we never read about a Rakah at all in that section. It was just about the children of Judah that were connected, and then that was a random side point. Then you could say it's confirmed. But until we start getting to another group of the children of Judah, there is that possibility. And when we don't have something confirmed at the time, we always phrase it as a most likely or less likely or possibility statement. Because you never want to say
All right.
something is a certain thing unless we know for sure. And we won't know for sure until we get to another section of people.
Okay. So I'll keep the same statement I had said earlier
Yeah.
then.
So you're right.
Yeah, I'll keep that. And then verse 13, we switch not switch it up, but we're just talking about the sons of Kanaz. Just another person, whole nother person. Othniel, Sariah, and then Othniel's sons, which it starts at Hatha, Hatha, but then it's going to continue with more of Othniel's sons on your section. And yeah, that's all I got for this.
Exactly. Now, one other statement I could say in it, this could bring actually a little confusion with the name Othniel. Now, do you remember the name Othniel enough to understand where that confusion could come in?
No.
All right. Let me give somebody else a chance. Thomas, do you remember where the name Othniel came in before?
No.
All right, and then Chris. Oh no, Chris said he's just listening, right?
Yes, I think so. Let me go back. He can hear, but just listening.
Yeah, he's just listening. All right, cool. So the name Othniel actually is also the younger brother of Caleb. So when we're talking about these children of Judah and stuff, we're also bringing in that time. Now, if we see that Othniel has a Othniel is the younger brother of Caleb, and his wife is Achsah, Achshah. If those names are brought up together, then we might be talking about the brother of Caleb here. But we haven't gotten to that point yet. So interesting, as we read about a different Caleb before at the time of David, right? But then as we go through here, we'll see whether or not it is connected. So now, as I'll go ahead and switch it to the second section, does anybody have any comments or questions as we go to the second section? All right. Then verse 14 to 18 in First Chronicles chapter 4. And Meonathai begot Ophrah. No, that's not Oprah. Sariah begot Joab, the father of the valley of Kedeshim, for they were craftsmen. And the sons of Caleb, the son of Yefuneh, Eru, Elah, and Naam, and the sons of Elah, even Kenaz, and the sons of Yahaleleel, Ziph, and Ziphah, and Tiriah, and Azariel, and the sons of Ezra were Yether, and Mered, and Epher, and Yalon. And she bare Miriam, and Shammai, and Ishba, the father of Eshtemoa, and his wife Yehudiah bare Jered, the father of Gedor, and Heber, the father of Sachol, and Yakutiel, the father of Zanoah. And these were the sons of Bithiah, the daughter of Pharaoh, which Mered took. All right, so we got a little bit of a different situation here. We are talking about a different Caleb, it looks like. Now, when we go through that, go back to it. Othniel was a brother of Caleb. But then when we go into Caleb's name, when it comes up, see if it brings up his daughters. See which Caleb we're talking about. Okay, so it looks like this one that we're talking about is actually the son, the original Caleb that we were speaking about before. See, the one that came later on, when we talked about it, had a different brother. We had the sons of Yahaleleel, right? So we're going down that same lineage coming down. So again, we went back in time to get a little bit of more emphasis. Now we're not talking about the time of David right now. We're just going through the lineage of Judah as read before. And so we bring up Caleb, the son of Yefuneh. So again, we're bringing back to that original Caleb, unlike the one we read before, which had a whole different family. So it's kind of interesting that we're going back to that. But then we continued on with the sons of Ezra and all the way down, and his wife Yehudia, and she gave birth to Jared, the father of Gedor. And again, we're just continuing on. So these are as the last part it brings up in 18, about those being the sons of the Bithia, the daughter of Pharaoh, which Mered took. Now, as far as I can remember, I don't remember us reading about Mered. So we're reading some connections here that we didn't have before. So it looks like we're getting more details on that in this Chronicles. And that's pretty much it from my sections. Let me go ahead and switch it to the third. Does anybody have any questions or comments they'd like to ask or say? All right, then go ahead, Charles, and finish us out.
Right. I'm gonna be reading First Chronicles chapter 4, verses 19 to 23. I'm gonna give it a couple seconds. Verse 19. And the sons of his wife, Hodiah, the sister of Naham, the father of Keilah, the son of, or the Keilah, the Garmite, and Es, Estemoa, the Maakathite, and the sons of Shimon were, I haven't seen that name in a while, Amnon and Rena Ben Hanan and Tilon, and the sons of Ishi were Zoheth, or Zoheth, and Benzoheth. The sons of Shelah, the son of Judah, were Er, the father of Lekah, and Laada, the father of Marashah, and the families of the house of them that brought fine linen, of the house of Ashbea, and Joachim, and the men of Kezeba, and Joash, and Sareth, who had the dominion in Moab, and that's a long name, Yashubilechem, and these are ancient things. These were the potters, and those that dwelt among plants and hedges. There they dwelt with the king for his work. All right, let me reread something real quick, Matt.
No problem. And while you do, keep in mind the question I had yesterday. We noticed with the last one we read all this stuff of Judah before, a lot of this, but there's some details we didn't get. The first time we get it versus the second time here. What does it seem to be the difference and why it said it twice?
From what I remember, it looks like we went backwards. Instead of talking like about the Caleb that was the spy, faithful, and all that, instead of talking about him first, we're reading about him now. We read about a separate Caleb first.
That is true, but we didn't go backwards because like we restarted earlier, that you could say it that way, but we
Oh
weren't
yeah,
going
okay.
back. We weren't
I'll
going
say that then.
backwards.
When especially specifically with Caleb, we read the first Caleb now rather than reading him first. We read a separate Caleb first. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm that's the one thing I was that I noticed now. But I gotta reread this because the names are throwing me off from
You're
everything
good.
that I'm about to bring up.
You're good. And Thomas, keep in mind that question because after Charles is done with his explanation, I'm gonna see if you can figure it out. That question
So
again, uh,
go ahead. Go
that
ahead,
was
Matt. Go
not
ahead.
the answer, by the way.
No, go ahead,
But
Matt. Finish what you were saying.
yeah, so the question again is just a heads up is why did it say it twice and what's the big difference of why it said it twice? How did it go about it the first time differently than the second time? And what seems to be the purpose because of it? Two-part question. All right, now go ahead, Charles, with your explanation, and
So
then try to answer that question after.
19, Mered, we're starting off with Mered's wife's sons. Um, but it goes out of its way to talk about the wife, Hudia, and the sister of Naham. Um, and then it throws a curveball at me. Yeah, that second part threw a curveball at me when it adds the father of Keila, the Garmite, and Eshtemo,
Ishtamoa,
Eshtemoa, the Maakite.
what's throwing you off?
So I got the first part with it's when it talks about the sons of his wife. The his is Mered, and it gets
Mm-hmm.
into her name and her she's sisters with Naham. And
Mm-hmm.
instead of it having a sentence after that saying and the sons of Mered, boom, 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 boom. After that, it just says the father of Keila, the Garmite, and Eshtoma, the Maakite.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's what I was trying to. I want to make sure I explain that properly. It's just the way it was placed in verse 19 is throwing me off.
Well, let me know if you need some help. Remember, we can't be sitting too long.
This one I'm gonna need a little help with.
All right. Little detail to help with that. We get the context of saying it's the sister of Naham and then the father of Keilah the Garmite and Eshtemoa the Maakatite. Did we get any relationship between Eshtemoa
Between Estimo and what?
and the first person? Who's the person we're focused on in verse 19?
Sons of his wife, the sons of Mered, so the sons of Hudia, the wife of Mered, basically.
Mm-hmm. So his
No,
son,
we don't have like a separation between those.
exactly. So we have a list of the kids, right? After we're specifying who Hodia is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then who would the father of Keilah the Garmite be? Is that Mered?
No, because we're talking about the sons of. So the sons of
Exactly.
Mered.
So the
So the
father of
son.
Keilah the Garmite is a son of Mered. And then who else
Okay,
is
yeah,
listed?
and father of Keila and the Garmite and Estemoa, the Maakathite. Yeah, it was okay. So that's what I was thinking at first, but I was like, this was a weird way it set it up.
Hmm.
The
This is where
son
it's
of
important to
Mered
keep in
and
mind where those relationships are connected. So we know we're reading from the perspective of Mered.
mhm.
And we said the sons of his wife, Chodia, the sister of Nacham. Then it goes in the father of Keilah, the Garmite. Well, can a sister be a father?
No, no, we're still talking about those the sons of them that we don't have their names for.
Exactly. So Chodia, the sister of Nacham, is the mom. So Chodia is the mom and is pointing out that her sister is Nacham.
Hmm.
Now we know that the father we're talking about is Mered. So then the father of Keilah the Garmite is a son of Mered. But notice how it's not pointing out the names of the sons, or it's not pointing out that name, right?
It didn't bring it up at all. It just said the sons of.
Exactly. So that means and that they are not important enough to list.
Hmm.
All that matters is that the son, one of the sons, is the father of Keilah the Garmite. But outside of that relationship, bloodline, that son doesn't matter. And then there's Eshtemoa the Maakathite. Now, the way that that's written, it's the father of Keilah the Garmite and Eshtemoa the Maakathite. But there's a comma in between, right?
Right.
So the most likely thing in here is that Eshtemoa was one of the sons that's listed, whereas the father of Keilah is not listed. So we got two sons listed here. Now, I wouldn't even say most likely. I would say it is that we have two sons because it says in that same verse, the sons of his wife, who's the sister of this person. Then we have the father of Keilah. Well, if the father of Keilah the Garmite is all, if it just point out that that's the father of Eshtemoa as well, then that would have to say son, not sons, right?
Right.
So one of them is not important enough to name, and the other son is Eshtemoa, based on the way the punctuation and the way it's worded. You see that?
Yeah. Just yeah, yeah. That's in that the way it was set up was just throwing me off.
Yeah. Yeah. It could have just said his name, but I guess whoever the
Hmm.
father of Keilah is just that he's just not important at all. like, like it went so roundabout just to make sure you didn't have his name.
Yeah.
Like,
But then what's funny is we get into verse 20 and now we're getting into this name is funny. Shimon, which I think is funny to see this again.
Shimon,
Yeah.
Shimon
And,
Lee,
and his
Shimon.
kids, Amon, Renah, Ben Hana, and Tilon. And then after that, in the same paragraph, the same verse, the sons of Ishi, Zoheth, Ben Zoheth. After
Yeah,
that, the
not
sons of
Benzie.
the sons of Shelah, verse 21, the son of Judah. Now we're bringing up something that sounds familiar to me. Were Er, the father of Lekah, and
Mm-mm.
Laada, the father of Maresha. Um, families of the house of them that wrought fine linen of the house of Ashsheba. So now, and then the next part of the second part of verse 21, families that came from a house that the type of work they were into were like, it said fine linen. So like the nice garments, nice clothing, um, nice things like that. Specifically
Good.
the house of Ashbia. And then verse 22, Joachim and the men of so yeah, Joachim. Let me reread some. Now we get in verse 22, Joachim, Chozabah, Joash, Saraph. And when it talks about having dominion in Moab, ruling in Moab, leading in Moab. Oh, in Moab and in Yashu Bethlehem. Oh no, 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 no. That's a name actually. Let me go back. Because they ruled in Moab. Yashu Bethlehem. Oh, so I think in verse 20, again, the way they worded it, Joachim, Chozabah, Joash, Saraph, and Yashubi Bethlehem.
Chosaba?
Let me go back. Kozabah, Kozabah.
No, 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 no,
And
no. You said it's not the pronunciation that's the problem. It's the way you phrased it. Joachim and Chosaba.
the men of Kozabah.
There you go.
The men of Joachim, the men of Kozeba, and Joash, Seraph, and Yashubilehem had dominion, had the rule in Moab, and were ruling in Moab. Then it just brought up, and these are ancient things. Is that just another way of saying this? This was a long time ago.
Not quite. Look at the way it's phrased after it says who had dominion in. Where's the timing of what comes first? Does the Shubi Lechem sound like a person or a place?
It sounded like a place until I went to the Strongs. It brings it up as a person.
That's good, but look at it, but try to get it from the context to work on getting better on that. And Joachim and the men of Kozaba. Okay, so we're talking about a city of Kozaba. But then we have and Joash and Seraph, who had the dominion in Moab, and Yashubi Lechem.
That's what I
So
thought originally. It was a place, but then when I went to the Strongs, I'm like, oh, I took it. I took the place back because it's bringing it up as a person. But the way it's set up as a place before you
the
go to the
way
Strongs,
no, I was gonna say the way it's set up, it shows that he had dominion in Moab. But we have
right?
that comma going afterwards, and then and Yashubi Lechem. So it could go either way in the way it's worded, but I would lean more towards a person because again, we haven't read about a city or anything like it. And the way it's worded, it looks like Seraph is has dominion over Moab. And then it adds on because and the reason that we can say that as a possibility is because it goes into a person. We're talking about people this whole time, right?
Right.
We're not talking about places so much. We're talking about Joachim and then the men of Kozaba, not Kozaba itself, and Joash and Seraph. So with the men of Kozaba, it's pointing out where they're from, but it's more so about the men than the place. And then Seraph, who had dominion in Moab, and Yashubi Lechem. So it could go both ways, but I could definitely see it going leaning more towards a person than towards a place. Because if you look at the surrounding context, we're talking about people, not about places. So there's one more thing you need to point out about verse 22.
That was the part that I was. And these are ancient things.
Mm-hmm.
Before I even try to even go to the Strongs, I was taking that as this is something that happened a long time. What we're talking about was something that was talked about a long time ago.
Exactly. Now, why is that important to point out?
It gives us it gives us a confirmation that we're not talking about a separate Yokim or um Kozeba or separate Seraph and the Caleb part from earlier. This is giving us confirmation of these because these names sound very familiar from what we read back in what was it like? Was it Genesis or Deuteronomy or it was one of them books where we were going through a list of names. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm taking it as. It's giving us the confirmation of something that was way in the beginning of the Bible when we were going through those Bible studies.
It also gives confirmation that we are talking about Raqqa as a place. We're not talking about a person. It gives confirmation that we're talking about these things because this brings up that these are ancient things. So we went through the whole list of the tribe of Judah going down to David and all that.
Hmm.
But then it started the tribe of Judah over again. And then it said these are ancient things. So we went it back to the origin. So now here goes the question. You'll get the first chance. Why did we list it twice and what's the difference between them? The first time of reading the tribe of Judah and the second time in First Chronicles specifically for both
The
those
first
readings.
didn't we read the first one to go down because we were just going down that order from like Moses and who the tribes were and separating them and all of that. The first time was just getting to know who, what, where, how, and the why was the first time that we were reading it. But us reading it for the second time, I'm taking this is a reminder that we should be keeping in mind.
No, but good try. All right,
They're lit.
Thomas,
Okay.
I feel like the level of importance and relevance in the given two different time frames. Someone was may have not been as important then, but bringing them up later in the so levels of importance. Levels of importance.
Good try, but no. But good try. The difference that we see between the two is the first time we're going down the genealogy of Judah in First Chronicles, we're reading about everything. If you really look at it, it's all connected to like Adam's seed going down to the and how it connects to the children of Israel. We're not going as much into detail. And then right after we got done with reading about Solomon and then the second Caleb and going through that time frame, then we restarted it. So we kind of were connecting more of a focus to David's lineage than we were Judah himself. But then when we got to the second one, we went all into detail, even more so of the different people that are connected and births and all that. So it seems more like the first one was more focused on David's lineage and how they got there, whereas the second one is focused on Judah's lineage entirely. You see that, Charles and Thomas?
Makes more
Okay, so
sense.
that's what you were trying to get us to see.
Yeah, I was wondering if you guys
First
were going
time
to
of going
notice it
through
before.
to go
Yep,
through David's lineage versus just specifically just breaking it down bigger than
yeah,
David's lineage.
exactly. Because the first time we didn't hear all these names. We heard a couple of them, but it was more focused on that lineage going down to David and everyone that connects to David and his children. Even with Edom and Esau, we read about how the Yether and how it connected back to it. That's where we were more focused on the first time. But this time, we were just branching out on Judah, period, and all the people connected to Judah. And so that's what it looks like. And yeah. So now, with all that being said, I think that was the third section. Yeah,
It
that's the
was,
third
but
section.
I didn't bring up 23 about these were the potters and those that dwelt among plants and hedges. There they dwelt with the king for his work. If I was gonna first explain it literal, but then I'm like, well, couldn't that be a metaphor? Because we already talked about them being the ones in verse 22 ruling
Wait,
in
wait, wait, wait,
Moab.
wait, 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 wait. Charles, why would that be a metaphor?
Oh no, that's I'm not saying this. It was just what I was thinking in my head. But then I
No,
was
no,
like,
I'm
no,
asking.
it's got to
I'm
be
asking
literal.
for critical thinking on that, because this is the thing about like being able to recognize things quickly. You don't want to just realize something is wrong or right. You want to understand why it's easy to know what's right or wrong.
Oh, so that's what I was.
So,
Oh, so in my head, I
so,
was thinking about the metaphor, but it brought up dwelt with among the plants and hedges. So once I read, I was like, no, 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 we're just talking about a literal. We're not talking about like a metaphor sense thing. It was
so
just
what
one of
about
those.
that cut off the idea of a metaphor? That's what I'm asking.
Um, after the potters, and they dwelt among plants and hedges.
Okay, I'm gonna ask the question again because you didn't answer the question. What about that cuts off the fact of it being a metaphor? The idea. Why does that cut it off from being a metaphor?
Oh, because I went to the Strongs for the plants and hedges. And then after that, there they dwelt with the king for his work. Yeah, so just going to the Strongs is where I changed it up, changed my mind to literal.
Well, going to the Strongs doesn't actually show you that it's a metaphor because plants and hedges could just be the literal word for plants and hedges. That doesn't tell you if it's a metaphor or not. So that's actually not a good way that you went about it. The way it's
Mm,
phrased is what should have shown it to you. These were the potters, and those that dwelt among the plants and hedges. They and there they dwelt with the king for his work. The reason that we can know this is not a metaphor is because if it were to say something of a metaphor, when it brought up these were the potters, after listing all the names and all that, then it would have brought something up that's abstract, something to show you like what they're trying to get at. Because the point of a metaphor is to prove something or to make something easier to understand. That's the point of a metaphor. But here, we just have a detail of connections, right?
Mhm.
So that's what should have let you know, not the Strong's Concordance. Because if you use the definition of words, that doesn't tell you that it's a metaphor. That just tells you what the word means. We know it's not a metaphor because of the part that points out those that dwell among the plants and the hedges. Well, we're listing factual information. We didn't take potters and then go abstract. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So it is that part, but the reason why is because it's more of a list of factual information. It didn't branch out at all. Now, if it had said these were the potters and they molded the people, now we're talking about a metaphor, right? Now we went from literal to abstract. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It was just something. It's something totally just out of place. Well, yeah. It's just something random and out of place. That's what made me second guess. What I was thinking
Well, I
about.
think what it is you recognize the fact that it didn't go abstract. You just didn't know how to place it. But because it seemed like it when the moment you read and those that dwell among plants and hedges, you're like, well, that can't be a metaphor. But I wanted you to understand why you're thinking that, why it comes across as that. Comes
Yeah,
across as that is because it's more of a literal information point. It's just a drop of facts and showing their connection. It's not going abstract. It's not switching up to something that's physically impossible. It's not taking something out of its way type. It's just listing more information. That's factual information that's realistic. That's how we know it's not a metaphor. It's literal. You see what I'm saying?
yeah, I see what you're saying.
All right. So now, does anybody else have any other questions or comments before we go to pray it out? Then go ahead, Charles, when you're ready.
All right, everybody, go ahead and bow your heads. Father, thank you for giving us this study, as we got the answer to the question, but we also got more names, more practice, and a deeper dive into some lineages. Now, I pray that after this study that we can go back and maybe practice some of these names, um, and then be ready for the next study, get rest, and try to enjoy the rest of the day. In Jesus' name, Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right.